the stew?
Yeah, he put the flour in the stew,
I don't remember about salt.
but there was something about salt in our lesson, because I taught about the salt covenant. And it says because salt is a preservative, it's costly, it's pure.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how we should have the
Right.
salt covenant with God. And then you mentioned Numbers 18:19, whatever is set aside from the holy offerings the Israelites present to the Lord, I give to you and your sons and daughters as your perpetual share. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before the Lord for both you and your offspring. In the 2 Chronicles 13:5, don't you know that the Lord, the God of Israel, has given the kingship of Israel to David and his descendants forever by a covenant of salt. So salt, I really never realized that there was a covenant of salt until I had it in whatever lesson I was teaching these ladies that now I have forgotten.
Okay. Salt is a covenant of permanence with God. That 2 Chronicles passage you just read is the everlasting kingdom of David, established with a salt covenant. Parker?
It comes to mind, we talked about it being a preservative, but how much do you realize that back in the earlier days, the pioneers didn't have refrigeration.
Exactly.
They used salt.
In a world without refrigerators, people use salt. Otherwise, they would have starved in the wintertime.
Yes.
Yes. In the ancient world, salt was the most common of all preservatives. We've already mentioned that. One of the people I read this week even noted that a little more salt would have preserved Sodom and Gomorrah. Genesis 18:32, where he got down to 10. People, if there had been 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have been saved.
Elisha, that was when he had to put salt in the bad water.
Okay, but the world doesn't realize what a blessing Christians are to all of them. That the world continues on and keeps God from destroying it because there's a little salt scattered through the whole world, preserving the world. That a small percentage of humankind walks in the ordinances and commandments of the Lord is very important. I remember when Dean was here, we were studying, someone asked when the world end of time would come, and Dean used the example of the flood. It'd be when God can't find any righteous people on the earth. I happen to agree with that. Y'all may disagree with that. Also, salt adds flavor to food. How many of you salt your corn? How many of you salt your watermelon? How many of salt adds flavor to food? How sad is it that the world's view of Christians is that they take the joy out of life? Why do we have this image of walking around with dire faces telling people you can't have any fun?
Depends on what they're calling fun. We won't involve ourselves.
But they should see the joy. Mike's brought it up a lot of times. People should see the joy and the happiness that we have and say, I want to be like that. So why can't people see the joy and the fulfillment that we have in Jesus Christ and the love that we have for one another and the enjoyment that we get being around each other because we're in Jesus Christ? We should be glad. Y'all don't know who Three Dog Night is, does anybody? One. Isn't that one of their songs? I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
I'm glad I trust in Jesus.
No, that has nothing to do with Jesus.
It's a 70s band.
Okay.
Smitty, I think, to answer, your question was probably rhetorical, but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to answer it anyway. I think Christians are looked at as often being without problems. And we're really quick, and I'm speaking in a universal sense from my experience. We're really quick to share how happy we are and how things are going so great. But we don't share when we confront trouble. And I think sharing when we confront trouble and still displaying joy, that's the
That's
ticket.
the key.
Yes, that's the ticket.
That's what probably evangelized the ancient world, the Roman world. That the Christianity began to dominate the Roman world. Salt that becomes contaminated is not even useful anywhere. Matter of fact, Jesus says it's worthless. It's to be cast out and trodden underfoot. That says the Christian who's fallen away has become worthless and useless. How sad. How sad. I'll say it again. How sad. The only thing that can be done with them is putting them out. That's a frightening description of one fallen from Jesus Christ. To be literally good for nothing. Any more about salt? Anybody want to add? Let's go to light. Yes,
We're
Parker?
about to end it up. I had triple bypass and my heart, man, said, don't take any salt.
You got to be the salt now.
Be the salt. Okay. There you go.
It's interesting that you said, and I never picked up on this in the past, that a little salt would have saved Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, one of my commentators I looked at said that. So
Well, what did Lot's wife turn into?
she turned into salt. That's interesting.
God has a sense of humor.
That guy. Amen, brother. That's true. All right.
Keep our flavor, that's it.
Yeah.
We gotta keep our flavor. That's because we're salt. We make things taste better. So, and we have to remember that when we're out and about in our daily lives. And not to have road rage, not to, let somebody else go ahead of you in the grocery line. To show that you're different.
Yeah, the kindness has gone out of the world we live in, hasn't it?
You know?
That's the bottom line, right?
Alex?
I'm a little confused about Christ saying that you're worthless if you don't have pure salt, because none of us have pure salt. So am I missing something there? Obviously.
Jesus said, "You are the salt." It's the origin of the salt being the salt, saying, describing somebody as the salt of the earth. And contaminated salt has gone back to the world. It's gone back to its elemental, to its dirty beginnings. Like salt that's been used to cure meat isn't used again. It's cast out because it's come in contact with the meat. No one would want that salt. And it's not even useful in the field. It has no purpose to be anything except to be cast in the path underfoot. So, yes, Mike?
So that's pretty frightening, isn't it? I mean, to further Alex's thought, if salt has lost its savor, if you and I are not trying to preserve the world from corruption,